Hello, everyone. My name is Crow, and I am your editor for this episode. Just wanted to pop in before the episode starts and let you know that this episode does contain a trigger warning. Later in this episode, I will pop back in and let you know when that trigger warning is happening, but viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to Straight from the Muzzle, folks, where we're anything but straight. My name is Space.
And I'm Paradox.
And we welcome you to our episode, which is about what today? That's you, Paradox.
Well, I know that. Okay, actually, we'll keep this little tiny bit in here because I was going to ask you, I'm like, how do you want me to introduce them? Because we do have a guest today, because we're talking about a really fun little topic and potentially, hopefully, fingers crossed, upcoming indie show. So I guess that's what it's about. We're just interviewing two really cool people. We just spent the last, maybe 15, 20 minutes talking to them. They seem really nice. I'm going to have them go ahead and introduce themselves.
So hi, I'm Niall Dial.
And I'm Dizzy Mingo.
And we are the creators of Soul Search.
Woohoo!
Now, you guys reached out to us specifically about your project. So I came across this because I was checking emails, regularly. And I came across it and I'm like, this is really interesting. And I like things that stand out and that are completely different. I'm like, I want to run with this. So message back, and then here we are today. So, as you guys mentioned, or as Paradox mentioned, this is an indie animation. I don't know where I was going with that. I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Totally blanked on that.
Pickles.
Yeah, that's why we have a pickle. Let's talk about Soul Search for a bit. Can you give us a synopsis of the story itself, and also talk about the different characters and how they tie together symbiotically? That was my fancy word for this question.
It's a good fancy word.
It is.
I try.
Yeah, so Soul Search is about an adorable Siamese cat named Soul. She has these special fire abilities that nobody else possesses, and she is on the search to find her sister who's been missing for a few years. So it's really a story about her kind of finding herself as well as trying to find her sister in the process, and really discovering the world around her. It's very based on, obviously, we're huge furries, so we wanted a safe space to create for our furry community, but we also are neurodivergent and in the LGBTQ plus community. And so we wanted to create a story that felt real to all of those spaces that were where people felt like they could see themselves in it. What about you, Dizzy? Do you have anything?
Yeah, I'd say it's, kind of akin to BoJack Horseman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm blanking on any other IPs. So if you have any.
Yeah, we based a lot of it on, so our huge inspirations are Steven Universe was a big one. BoJack Horseman, obviously Invincible as well. There's a lot of action and fighting in it, and it's very, very gory. It's very much like an adult series, and we don't really hold back on that. There's also topics of mental health and, other things that might need trigger warnings. So we're trying to make it very, very real to our community. So obviously we have our character Soul, who's our main character with her fire abilities. She's very innocent, young. She's an ace character. A lot of her is based on my own personal experiences. She's very new to this world and sheltered. And so she doesn't really know how to use her abilities or really exist in this world. She has her friend, Chalk, who is kind of the mentor or sidekick in the story, who is just the complete opposite, the very almost BoJack character, very, very gruff mercenary. He doesn't really have time to play around or teach her anything new. So they're kind of traveling, trying to find her sister who has been missing. And the last time she saw her sister's in the military. And the last time she saw her sister, she was with Dr. Talos, who is another character that's a geneticist, and he's doing these cool experiments, and that's kind of why he's in the military. So that's kind of the premise of the story, but there's so much more lore behind it. We have a lot of indigenous roots in it, where we have a villain that comes into play later, because we do have multiple seasons. And this villain is very much rooted in indigenous legends, kind of, gosh, I can't say it because you're not supposed to say what it is. But just we tried to draw on a lot of those things from our team as well as our personal experiences. So yeah, that's kind of a quick summation.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to skip ahead on a question because it kind of just rolls with it. We looked on your website to do our own research, and we started to notice subtle hints of possible Easter eggs that may or may not pay tribute to the story, its characters, and possibly Native American nations. Is it possible that because there's only 4 characters, would each one represent those nations listed? And I don't know how to pronounce them, so I don't want to
It's okay.
butcher the names.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's interesting because when we developed our website, and we're still kind of doing the coding for it, we do actually have a game that's going to be coming out on our website that makes it more interactive, where you can find more Easter eggs. So I'm kind of glad you picked up on that, even though it's not fully done yet. I will say, yes, we do have a lot of BIPOC throughout. We have more than 4 characters. We have actually a lot of characters, but those are kind of the main 4. And it's an interesting theory. I will pass it over to Dizzy because I'm Native Mexican Indian. Dizzy is actually Hawaiian. And so the nations that are listed are Hawaiian nations, which is we get a lot of folklore and pull from both of those and do a lot of research. So Dizzy.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely inspired by a lot of indigenous folklore. Stephen Graham Jones is a great horror author in that space.
Oh, I read some of his books.
He's great. They're fantastic.
Oh, he is great. I'm so sorry. I had a shocking realization. I was like, oh, I've read some of him. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a huge book nerd. So I just, as soon as you said the name, I was like, oh my God, I've read him. Okay, go ahead.
Hell yeah. No, it's all good. I mean, our house is slowly turning into a library. So yes. I feel you.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, well, I'm what you'd say, would you, the phrase would be Kama'aina, I'm from Hawaii, but I'm not Kanaka Maoli, which is Native Hawaiian, but still that's my home. There's a lot of things that are really near and dear to my heart. For nations listed on the website, they're actually the indigenous nations for where we live in California.
Wow.
And it's something that we
see. That's cool.
Yeah. And we've seen it a lot more. I don't feel like you see it too much in the US, but definitely in Canada and elsewhere in the world, people do a lot more of just acknowledging, the land that we all live on or where you work or things like that. And it's just it felt like the right thing to do, and I wish we would do a little bit more of that, since it's those peoples and those cultures obviously are still around and still exist. And this is their land, that we're occupying on. So, but that's really what that's there for. It's just to acknowledge.
Yeah. And we also, we pull from a lot of indigenous horror. Indigenous horror is really we love watching that stuff, being just inspired by it. So our main villain is based on a lot of indigenous folklore, mainly kind of Mexican, Indian, but we also have some calls to Hawaiian as well.
That is really cool.
And then we also implement we have different species. So Soul is a cat, Chalk is a moose, Dr. Talos is a hawk, and all of them kind of symbolize different indigenous tribes or just different races throughout the world. And we try to implement that in their lore by the way that they act, as well as when you visit these planets, in the series, you kind of see that, what's the word I'm looking for? That kind of impression whenever you go there. So you can kind of certain characters represent African American, certain characters represent Mexican. And so, yeah, that's kind of the gist of that. Anything else, Dizzy?
No, I think that pretty much covers everything.
I think that's so cool, though. I feel like there should be more projects out there that pull in cultural lore more, because I feel like a lot of people may not know as much about that, and to pull that into your animation and then kind of make almost a focal point of that is really cool idea.
I really appreciate it. I think that's one of the driving things for us in anything that we create, but certainly for this project, where it's we just want to put some good back into the world, pay things forward, and again, just have stories that are, representative of so many different facets of life, whether it's culturally experiences and whatnot.
Yeah. And we try to do our research. Our team is entirely neurodivergent, LGBTQ, and BIPOC.
Wow.
And so we do try to implement them into our stories, do our research, and because we don't want token gay characters or token Black characters. And so we do really try to, do our research and make sure that it comes across that way as well.
Let's talk.
Sorry.
No, I was going to say
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, okay, fine. I was just going to say that it actually covers a lot of what we had for question 8 for you. which was given the very tightrope navigation that it takes to represent other cultures and communities accurately and with due justice. And it also answered the questions if any of the cast and crew members were part of these communities, and you've mentioned it quite a few times that, yeah. So it's really cool that that's all answered within that question, so we don't have to do that one. Sweet.
Let's talk about your team just a little bit. How did you meet your team or find these unique individuals?
Yeah, it's funny. I've had this project for a really long time. And so I just kind of on a whim, I don't know how else to say this. Like, I just kind of on a whim posted on TikTok. My main social medias are TikTok and then YouTube, which is where the story will be the entire season once we get it done. And there were just enough people that one of my posts just blew up about oh, would you voice act, And from there, we kind of created a Discord, and that's how we met our team. So most of our team is from TikTok, but it was a journey of doing that because we had an overwhelming amount of people that came in, which was incredible to see. But we had I think for Chalk and Talos alone, we had hundreds of applicants that we had to sparse through in order to find the right voice actors, but also reaching out to people in our community, whether it was in our our master's program or in the furry community, people that we just really liked, artists online that we had seen that we really liked their work, just kind of going out of our coming out of our shell because we're both very autistic and introverted, and so having to reach out to people and have that connection and have that conversation. And surprisingly, the indie community is amazing. They're incredibly supportive. I've met even indie creators that I interact with that we work together and solve problems. We talk about animation together. And so that's kind of how it all developed. And it's kind of to the point where some of our teammates, one of our teammates, Alistair, he's our background artist, is kind of feeding into the story too. We have our writers, but we also have our voice actors. We allow them to put some of their personality and the characters. We really ask even our background artists like Al, hey, does this part of the story make sense? What would you add to it? Because they have different experiences that relate to some of the characters. And so I don't know, it's been a really fun community project. It's kind of turned from a project that I've had in my heart for a very long time into something that everybody relates to. And I think that makes the story more powerful too, because it's relatable on so many other levels. It's not just the main character, but all of the characters kind of feel alive and feel like they have their own voice and their own story to tell, which is really fun. What about you, Dizzy?
Yeah, I think kind of the two other things I would add, I think we're all feeling it. And we kind of talked about it before, we started officially recording the episode. But, the copy paste of, Hollywood goes through these cyclical things where they're more conservative and then they shift to taking chances on new shows. And we have just been stuck in this ultra conservative, just want to play it safe space for a really long time. And people are tired of it. I think that's why you're seeing a lot more traction in the indie space because people want new stories. They want stories that, represent them and who they are. And I think the only other thing I would add is, being in indie production, we've wanted to give back in a lot of different ways, but certainly for team, giving people the opportunities. I mean, if they are animation is my bread and butter. So, if somebody is doing cleanup, but they're oh, I'm really interested in compositing, or I'd like to try rigging, giving people the flexibility to try these different things out. Because in the real world, it is so hard to, really get kind of that hands-on experience and be able to be in different parts of the pipeline. So it's definitely something that we've, just tried to bake into a lot of things, just to have that flexibility for people to try things out and see what works for them and do what they enjoy.
I saw in your announcement in Discord something about rigging. Can you explain what that is? Because I don't know the terminology for that.
Totally. So rigging is essentially you, depending on the type of animation that you're doing. So we do cutout puppet animation. You basically have all these different pieces. So you've got for a leg, and it's got a thigh and it's got a foot and, obviously all the different anatomical structures. You've got all kinds of different feet for the feet, facing different ways. And rigging is basically, it's an art form in and of itself, but going in and basically putting all these together in a program so that whatever you're animating in, if you need to turn a character or animate a character, it works, and it does what you expect it to, and you can, have it be expressive and really get that performance and stuff that you're looking for. So it's really just, kind of connecting all those visual assets.
And what's nice is like, since we're an indie studio, like we are learning and we're posting while we're learning. And so people are seeing that progress. And that was kind of what I was talking about in the announcement. I feel like we originally had a rigging of our specific characters, but we've grown so much since then because we've been doing this for like a year and a half now that it's just became irrelevant. And we didn't want to, that's kind of why we had to stop our Kickstarter, because we realized like we don't want to put out like an animation that isn't our best, especially when we've grown and developed and we can make better rigs and just make it overall better. So that was kind of like what that announcement was talking about. And we're kind of in development right now of doing that. But we've also kind of discovered the joy of just having a rough animatic, which is just all hand drawn. And I've seen a lot of this very popular on YouTube right now with 3 Tomes is like a new indie animation. Also like Pretty Please, I Don't Want to Be a Magical Girl. Those are 2 ones that are really showcasing like indie space right now, but also they're coming out with just rough animatics for their episodes. So they're not completely done. And I think people enjoy the process of that. Like they like seeing how the rigging is done for the characters, how a storyboard looks, whether it's super like almost there to the point of animation or even just the rough, funny expressions that storyboarders will use. And so that's actually been like a valuable insight for us in this process. And so, yeah, we're definitely just still discussing what that looks like down the road, but there's definitely different forms of animation. But yeah, that's typically rigging is the puppet animation. And you see that in like everything. My Little Pony uses it. BoJack Horseman uses it. Mm-hmm. Pretty much every animation company uses puppet rigging. Not a lot of stuff is hand animated anymore.
Yeah, just takes a lot of time and money.
Oh, a lot of money.
Interesting.
That being said, where did the art style for Soul Search come from? And I guess, will it be more 2D? Is it going to be 3D? Is kind of like a funky mix of the two. To me, when I first was looking at like your website, I was like, "Oh, you want to know what this reminds me of? It reminds me a lot of Night in the Woods, like that game, pretty popular a couple years back." And I don't know, just something about the art style. I was like, this looks a lot like Art in the Woods, Night in the Woods. And so I was just curious of where the inspiration for like a lot of the art style comes from, and if that's going to be close to what it looks like in the future, or
yeah. So I mean, an awesome question. Also, great compliment. We love Night in the Woods.
So
That's
good.
Such a good game.
Yes.
Sure. So yeah. So actually, we are millennial furries. We were really inspired by, and I think every furry artist or every furry out there like started with Sonic the Hedgehog. So I feel like we started with that and like growing up with animes like Dragon Ball Z and things like that. Originally Soul Search actually started as a graphic novel. So a lot of the style of Soul Search still has that kind of like comic book graphic novel kind of style. But over the years, we've really been influenced by like Steven Universe is a huge one. So like Rebecca Sugar, gosh, what other, I'm like blanking right now. We have so many artists that like were inspired.
Owl House maybe, or?
Oh yeah. Owl House is a big one too.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Owl House is a big one. There's a lot of old like 90s Cartoon Network shows that we really liked. Kim Possible on Disney Channel was also one that like
I loved Kim Possible.
Oh,
yeah.
Kim Possible's a good one.
Loved Kim Possible. And a lot of like our villain, the monster that we have in our story, a lot of her abilities and powers are based off of like Shiko. So like we have like different influences. The style has really changed. And even our new rigs look different from the old ones because animation is such a difficult thing. And I think a lot of people don't realize how hard animation is. There's a lot of things that don't translate from that comic style that we have to change and simplify in order to make the rigging process work. And that's why sometimes you'll notice like the characters look different compared to what's on the website, because those were like kind of the older comic style. We've kind of adapted and developed. We've kept as much as we can close to that style because that's my original style for the comic. But we definitely still focus on like what we want to keep that's like important, like emphasizing more of like for Chalk, for instance, emphasizing more of that look of like a moose, because we noticed like some people were like, oh, is he a deer? Is he an elk? So we kind of emphasize like more of like his nose and his antlers so that you can really tell like what he's supposed to be, as well as like kind of representations as well of who they are. For instance, like Soul is very gullible and naive, and so she's a Siamese cat. Cats are very perceptive, but at the same time can be very like spooked and seem kind of innocent, whereas like moose are known to be like, I don't know if you've ever like seen a moose in real life. I've been to Canada many
moose
times.
Are huge.
They're huge. They're terrifying. They're very like, they will charge at you instantly. And that's very much Shock's character. He's very like stocky built and like, you know, he doesn't mess around. And so we do try to like implement those little representations into their character more. And I don't know, it's been a fun process. It's definitely a lot more than you would expect. I had no idea going in. We do the 2D stuff, but I didn't even like, we have 3D animators now, which I didn't think that we would need, but we actually enjoy having them because they've been 3D modeling the ships, like what the ships will look like. They've been 3D modeling some of the spaces in the pilot.
Really cool.
In the pilot, they like visit this kind of temple that's based on like Aztec ruins, which is a lot of the like Mexican Indian folklore that we have. And they've like modeled what those pyramid structures look like, what the statues look like and stuff like that. And that's something that I honestly hadn't really thought about. I thought we could just kind of 2D that, but having the 3D model is great for reference because then now the artists that are doing the boarding, they can look at that 3D model and they can replicate it into the storyboard. It's just like little stuff like that like you just don't think about like at all.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and it's like, I really love to be in this, like, I call it 2.5D world, but it's like, there's so much that you can do. There's so much charming about like 2D animation, you know, because 3D can kind of get into the uncanny valley like pretty quickly.
Yep.
But there's so much that you can do with camera work and parallax where you like layer things out and it gives you that sense of space in 3D without having to like fully go there. But inevitably there's going to be things like Niles just mentioned with like the ship and things like that, where it's like, it will just read better as 3D. So, you know, working with like finding a program where you can kind of combine all these things.
And like the trick is making it look 2D. That's the thing. There are some like, I know we were talking about before we started the interview, you mentioned Futurama, and that's like a show that like we really we love Futurama.
I love
like,
Futurama. It gets weird after like towards the end. It gets a little weird, but like overall, it's such a good show.
Yeah, so like the newer one, we're not super happy about, but we both loved like watching like seasons 1 through what, like 4 was like kind of the,
I think you're like
the
OG.
bread and butter OG. But there are parts of it when you look at it because it's older, when you see the like Planet Express ship in 3D and it kind of takes you out of what you're watching because you're like, oh, that does not look the same. And we really don't want to do that. And so we're trying to take something 3D as well and make it 2D, which is like the weirdest cheat to have to try and figure out to do.
It's
but
like
we really
going backwards.
Yeah, we really don't want to take away from the experience from what they're viewing. And so that's like been a huge focus for us as well.
Yeah, you definitely want it all to family together nicely.
There are movies and shows, like especially animated ones, that do blend like 2D, 3D like together, and it doesn't look terrible.
Yeah.
Forgive me, I'm unfortunately finding it a little hard to find an example. I think the closest one that might be a good example would actually be, it's a very niche film. It came out, I think, in like either the late 90s or very early 2000s, but it was a Don Bluth film, and it was called Titan AE.
I effing love Titan AE.
So good. I mean, I personally, for like the age that it was, I think it really blended a lot of like 2D and 3D animation, because a lot of like 3D animation back then was primarily experimental. So like a lot of that was a little bit funky, but I think looking back on it, I'm like, you know what, they did pretty good. So like maybe you could, I don't know.
It was
somehow
weird though. Have you guys seen it before?
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I definitely like, I grew up with that. I've watched it countless times.
So good.
Yeah.
There's parts of it that drive me nuts from a graphic standpoint where they run down, like, let's say a flight of stairs. It doesn't look natural the way that they run down the stairs. And I don't know if it's just the way that they angled that particular frame for that animation, or if there was just, like you said, there was experimental stuff going on. But there was a lot of things that kind of worked but didn't work. But the overall story was pretty rad. I mean, that was a cool movie.
I loved it.
Yeah.
No, I agree. That's a great one to call out. And it definitely, I think they did, even looking back on it now, like it still stands out pretty well. Like they did a good job.
I mean,
those
It
things.
came out it came out in year 2000, so it's 26 years old.
I watched
so-
it like about a month or two ago too.
Did you really?
Yeah,
I have
it
to
came
tell
up
my
across my
wife that.
feed, and I'm like, I should watch this again.
I actually
How
really
ironic that I mentioned it then.
like the Don Bluth stuff. It's funny that you mentioned that because I think Secret of Nim was one of the biggest.
Secret of Nim,
That's such a good movie.
dark and weird, but good.
Yeah, that's what I loved about it as a kid. Because I feel like nowadays, especially, a lot of animation is expected for children, even though ours is not. But like they treat kids like they're stupid or they need like this happy, like, wonderful show. And I loved The Secret of Nim because it was so dark and it felt like so real. I don't know. It was one of my favorites. I love like Don Bluth stuff. So it was definitely our childhood.
Yeah, 100%.
All dogs go to heaven. That's
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
yes.
A tearjerker.
Oh, I didn't know that they were responsible for Robin Hood. Oh, that's
Oh,
cool.
That's cool.
Didn't they do Five Goes West, or is that a different?
Five Goes West is such an underrated film, and I love it. I love the American Tail films; those are really good too.
Yeah, those are
They
great
were.
too.
Looks like they helped with Anastasia, which popped up on my Disney Plus feed. And I was like, do I want to watch Anastasia?
It's
You
because
do.
Anastasia got I think it was 20th Century Fox that originally did Anastasia, and then Disney
Yeah.
bought out 20th Century Fox. So
Oh,
technically, all those years of everybody being like, Anastasia's a Disney princess. No, she's not. She's 20th Century Fox. Well, now she is, because now she's owned by Disney. So she gets royalties there.
I can't believe we're down to like two companies that really own everything in the
It's
US. It's
stupid.
just so
It's so
wild.
stupid.
It is stupid, honestly. You know what? I'm gonna semi-shoot from the hip, I guess, in this kind of question and or statement, however you want to word it. With all of the big corporations and obviously the battle for, can I put this on Netflix? Can I put this onto, live television? Can I put this onto whatever streaming service? Have you found that to be really hard, or considering it's an indie project, or since, and let's be honest here, a lot more indie films and indie shows are becoming a bit more mainstream. To name a few, some of the biggest hitters in actually just this year, Markiplier put out Iron Lung, and it blew up
Yep.
as an indie film, and it did
that was
so well.
shocker. That was
It was
that was
good.
a shocker.
I saw it twice in theaters, and it's an absolutely phenomenal piece of work of art. I loved the film, and then I watched it again here at home. We bought it as soon as it came out on YouTube, and it's really good. If you guys haven't seen it, I do recommend. I mean, I've watched Markiplier for the last little over a decade, and he's done really great stuff. But anyway,
Do you know he
Oh.
broke even on that?
Yeah.
yes,
He
yes.
broke even and made a profit. I don't
Yep.
think
Yes.
any YouTuber has ever done that movie format before.
Yes.
I don't even think a studio has done that for a long time.
Probably not. And it's like the statement that we made earlier of the people are just tired of the same copy paste, rinse and repeat of these big corporations making essentially the same Hallmark story
Yeah.
or same remake. I mean, and again, maybe an unpopular opinion, but I don't think we really needed a live action Moana. It came out
Nobody
7
wanted
years ago.
Yeah.
No one
Nobody
asked
wanted
for
that.
it.
Nobody asked for it. Why? I can understand a little bit of maybe the older classics. So for example, I loved Maleficent when it came out because it was a different twist. Loved
for
it. And
sure.
it was So I really liked that. A lot of people really didn't like the Beauty and the Beast one that came out. I think it was really cool, but I'm also just a Beauty and the Beast boy. That's just me. That's my favorite Disney film.
I didn't even know he did a live action of Beauty and the Beast.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Let me tell you this.
Oh,
It's got
Lilo
Hermione
and
Granger in it.
it does.
They did
it has
not need to do Lilo and Stitch. That
no, they
was
didn't. Absolutely not.
piece of shit. I'm so mad about
I
it
agree.
because the fact that Nani leaves Lilo to study on the mainland marine
Yes.
biology, which is Hawaii is the number one place to do that, you idiot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my god. I agree.
Anyway. Yeah, so this is a funny thing because actually Dizzy and I were just talking about Paramount and the whole Avatar movie being leaked and how
Yes.
they're now saying again, Avatar The Last Airbender also is another incredible inspiration. We grew up with it. We love the Avatar series, but now there's
So good.
there's, conversation potentially of, because this was leaked, it's going to affect whether or not Paramount wants to continue making Avatar content, which they already agreed to a couple movies and a show or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so frustrating because, yes, like those corporations really own that content and it kind of limits the creator. And in the indie space, we do have, it's like the opposite. We have so much creativity, but then being able
Freedom.
to find the right platform is difficult, because even with YouTube, and I know most indie spaces have gone to YouTube, like Hell of a Boss is YouTube, Lackadaisy is YouTube. And
I love Lackadaisy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love Tracy Butler so much. She's like my idol. But they're all on YouTube. But the thing is like even YouTube has issues with, I know the Amazing Digital Circus was running into that issue too, with like what content you can have on YouTube, because they don't want like sexual content. They don't want like, which is like fair. Obviously we don't want like porn, but like just even to tell the story that they needed to tell. And, there's companies like Glitch, which are great, but they also have controversial issues as well. So it is difficult to find that space. I will say, like, some of the conversations, we do have like a marketing manager, and a lot of the conversations that we've had have been towards Amazon Prime, because like, here's the thing. We're Californians. We hate Amazon Prime. We hate like all these like corporate companies. What I like though about Amazon Prime is that they're allowing creators to express themselves more. The shows that they're allowing, like Has Been Hotel, which probably isn't the best example. I know it's very controversial, but like Invincible, that was something that really like stood out to me, where it's like, wow, it's incredibly violent content, but it's necessary for the sake of the story. And the fact that they're willing to like allow that content or have that conversation, that's kind of a direction that we have like considered potentially, but it's hard. It's definitely hard. We're still trying, YouTube right now is what we're aiming for, as well as I think even Vimeo, because we want to hit the European space as well.
I was just going to say Vimeo is like the alternative, but it's a little bit more less restrictive than YouTube would be.
Yeah. But we've also had, we went to the Ottawa International Film Festival like a year and a half ago. That's where we pitched to Adult Swim. But they, we were approached by people that were making their own platforms. I think it's called View, but like they wanted to host more indie projects on there and kind of like have that kind of library similar to Netflix, which Netflix is another big one that also has issues too. But the hard thing about it is like all of those spaces are not prescription. Oh my gosh. They're subscription services. And that's another freaking wall that we don't want to go down. And YouTube allows us to post those things, for free. So it's a lot. That's something we're still definitely always talking about and trying to figure out. And really, we just want to do what's best for our audience, because we want them to be able to view that content. We even started getting into the furry space. So little pivot, apologies, but there is a petition by Disney would know to make, instead of .com, it's .furry, and that actually went through. So now I don't know.
I saw that in your Discord chat.
Yeah, so we helped fund that, like obviously a small amount, but that's another route that we're excited to go down, because it's like new, it's innovative, it allows a safe space for our main audience, which is the furry community, but it also, might have what we're looking for in that regard.
We're just looking for more things that are decentralized, so that it's like people have access to them, it's equitable. That's the hardest thing about trying to do anything in the United States right now, is that it's all gatekeeping. And I know we talked about like Markiplier and obviously like VisiPop, and those have been successful, but it's like the work is on the creator now, again, just in the US, to do your marketing and really bring an audience for an IP before, any big company wants to do anything. So it's like, that's a really big barrier.
That's the shittiest thing. And like, I'm not trying to like dog on Adult Swim, but that is what they're looking for in the pitch they don't just want you to be the creator anymore. They want to see what your YouTube statistics look like. They want to see how many people are already invested, if you've sold any merchandising, like if you're worth the time for them to invest in, which is like so their job. That's always how it's been. It's like, what are you doing? All you're doing is really providing the streaming platform, and that's it. I don't know. It's difficult.
I'm glad their new
hard.
CEO is pivoting. Like, they came out and said, in addition to mapping out for the next few years and wanting to do just all new original content, that it's their job to go out to find these things,
Because it is.
Yeah, which, it makes sense. Obviously it's easier for, them to do it when they have a greater means than to put all of that on an individual.
Yeah.
I think I might want to support this because it would be so cool if I could get a domain that is sftm.furry.
Right? Furries.
That would be so much better than what we have right now.
Totally.
There you go.
It's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, we just talked a lot.
No, you totally did. And that's totally fine.
So we did talk a lot about the indie animation, but we're going to say indie animation often requires wearing a dozen different hats all at once. What is the most unexpected skill you had to learn while bringing Soul Search to life?
That's a really awesome question. So Dizzy and I met in our MFA program, it was SVA in New York City. Our program is focused on visual narrative. And so what that essentially means is we're both versed in a lot of different media. We're not just comics or illustration or animation. We're like kind of a lot of it. So we kind of have always been wearing a lot of hats in that regard, but we still didn't anticipate what it took as an animation company, or I guess a little studio, because like in my current job outside of this, I'm a creative producer and I have to wear a lot of hats. But even that is like nothing compared to the stuff that we're having to do here. And the amount of like departments that we have we have storyboarding artists, we have our animators, we have our writers, we have our background artists, we have our music composers, we have lyricists, because I know I didn't mention this, but we have singing in our series. So there will be like songs and stuff. And we have marketing managers. There's so much stuff that like you don't think about at all. You're just like, I want to make a story. And that's it. I would say for me, the thing I didn't expect, or I guess, as an unexpected skill is like, and this is really dumb, but like, I love our voice actors. Everyone in our team has become like family to me, and I really, really love them a lot. But I did not realize that when you get a bunch of voice actors together to read a script, like they are fucking insane. Like the amount of corralling that I've had to learn to do, it's hilarious. The amount of like screen recordings I have too, that I've had to just be like, I can't post this on the internet. Mm-hmm. Like just the inside jokes, the things that they will post in the Discord too, that I'm like, we got to take this down. We can't have this in here. That has been like unexpected for me, as well as being like a video editor. Like I do a lot of video editing in my current job in general, but I didn't realize that putting the stuff together for the rough animatic isn't just like, oh, the artists give me the scenes and then I put them in a beautiful little line. It's like, no, I have to find all the SFX. I have to find, which we do have composers for, but for rough animatics, just to get the idea across, to be able to show the team. That has also been something that I did not expect to be like pretty much a video producer. How about you, Dizzy?
That's fair. I'm wearing like the most, like the unsexiest hats that you could ever imagine. I mean, I've been digging into
tell.
Oh my God.
Wow.
The world of like trademark and copywriting, how to structure a business, like for tax things, getting business licenses. I mean, it's important stuff. Yeah, but oof.
Yeah. That is the most unexpected for him, for sure. Like, I did not expect you to jump into that space, and for there to be so many, especially in the state of California, like so many things you have to, like, hoops to jump through in order to even say, like, I just want to sell furry art. And, like, I just want to sell this hat.
I got to register with the state, with the county, the city. It's,
It's crazy.
That's crazy.
I hadn't thought about that before. That's interesting.
That is a lot of work. And honestly, it sounds like a lot of what Disney does is just the groundwork and like the beams that hold up, the ceiling sort of thing so it doesn't collapse.
Yeah. Well, and budgeting too. That was something we never
Oh, yeah.
expected having to think about. Well, you think about it, but you're like, down the road. Just thinking about like how much should everyone get paid realistically when we start moving into that space? What's the best way to do payroll? What's the best way to do we hire them as contractors, or do we have, actual employees? I don't know. It's a like kind of a headache.
It's a lot to navigate.
It is.
As somebody, it's because I also oversee like our animation department and our sound design department, because that's my background. So getting into the wild world of numbers and everything is like very different. It's the opposite end of the spectrum for me.
And also, whenever you did get tested for autism, they told you to never use math ever because you're like mentally not okay with that. So it's been a lot. It's a lot.
Is it right now just a full-on like volunteer production?
It is for the moment, but that's part of the reason like we wanted to pause the Kickstarter and then kind of like come back to it with like a more focused ask and kind of digging a little bit more into the furry community, because we're about to get to that point. We're going to start doing our back pay for folks and getting everything caught up there. So we're about to shift away from that.
Yeah. And we have initially discussed, like we have an area in our Discord where all of our crew posts and keeps track of how many hours they've worked. And so they have like a cumulative number for that we fully like anticipate to like back fund them on, because we love our team and we feel like they deserve to get paid, for the work that they do. And we're really, really pushing hard to like get into that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's the right thing to do, and we're self-funding a good portion of this as well. So, but definitely, trying to raise funds where we can and everything like that, and be smart about it too. It's we've definitely talked about getting investors, but it's like you don't want to bring that on too early, and
that's the thing, because we've had investors, and I don't know, that's such a difficult thing, because it's like technically we could have funded it months ago, but it just isn't the right thing for us. So it's like we don't want to be in debt, we don't want to accrue anything, but also like some of those investors, some of them know nothing about animation, but they want like
a seat at the table.
Yeah, they want to be like an executive producer, and it's like there's things that I'm not willing to compromise for the sake of our IP as well as our teammates. And like they work really hard, and a lot of them are working up the totem pole. Like one of our artists is working into more of a producer role now, and they've earned that keep. And so there's just things like we aren't willing to compromise on just for the sake of someone wanting to give us money.
And that's a good quality to have. It's something you don't see in people very often. More people would probably take the money rather than someone turning it down saying, we want to keep the integrity of what we have.
Yeah, we appreciate you saying that. It's definitely, we want to do the right thing,
This kind of like rolls into perfectly our next question. For our listeners who may not realize how much goes into animation, what does a typical work week look like for Soul Search?
That's a hard question.
I know. It's kind of a loaded question because I'm sure there's a lot of things that go into play, but you got to ask it.
Yeah, for sure. So most of our team, they're in college. And a lot of them, this is kind of their first foray into like working on a full production. So it's difficult because most of what they're doing is part-time. And even like Dizzy and we have full-time jobs outside of Soul Search. Because Soul Search is my baby, I literally work probably until like midnight every night working. Like I work on Soul Search every single day. I like eat, sleep, and breathe it. I don't expect that from my team. And so
you and I get each other right there. Fully get it.
So it's interesting because, and also like Dizzy and I, like we believe in this project. And so like we don't keep track of our hours, to be honest with you. And this is something our marketing manager hates. Like it's a nightmare for him because he's like, you need to keep track of your hours, but like, we don't want to get paid. We want to pay our team, but we just love doing this. And so for us, I'm working on it all the time. So my average week is pretty much when I'm not at work, I'm doing Soul Search. And so I'm pretty much on it till like 10 p.m. to midnight. And depending on like what I'm doing at work, because sometimes like where I work, I have busy seasons where I can't necessarily work on it. And I'm in all departments. Like I'm writing, I'm animating, I'm storyboarding, I'm listening to music that could potentially be used. We do have a license with a company called Bed Tracks that we met at the Ottawa Film Festival. They're Canadian. They've actually given us access to their library to use for our series. So I spend so much time just listening to music even to try and get the right thing. But my team, we give them deadlines, and I would say it depends on the role. Like our background artists work, though, I would say the most out of all of them. They're pretty much working on it every other day. Whereas like our animators, they only work when the animation is ready. Like they have to wait for the writing to be done, the storyboarding to be done before they can even like touch the animation process. So I don't know really how to answer that other than like we're doing the best that we can. And everybody's working on it, but everybody is also in college. They are in college for those specific things. I know like the animators are in college for animation. The writers are in college for writing. Some of them have even like their own YouTube and studio that we post. Like we have them affiliated with our YouTube channel. So it's a lot. I don't know, Dizzy, do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely, we're hopping around in all different parts of the pipeline. I'll speak mainly to kind of like what I do on like the animation side. So like, I feel like Niles, definitely you live in all parts, but heavily pre-production.
Yes.
It's the writing and the storyboarding. Pre-pro's great. I'm more in the production and then kind of post space. So like, I'm partnering with the animators. We're assigning, different shots and different scenes. Some of them really want to animate a particular character that really calls to them. So, kind of divvying that up, getting that work back, reviewing it, and then going into the compositing space where you're basically putting together these character performances, these animations with the backgrounds, you're doing the lighting, you're all the stuff that kind of really brings it to life. And then of course, like, working with the sound designers and incorporating those different pieces. So it's kind of like, that's where I exist in the pipeline primarily. I'll jump around here and there, but
it's a lot of it. It's a hard question to answer. It's if someone were to ask that to me, I'd be like, probably the same thing that you guys had said. I wear a lot of hats. I do a lot of stuff. I work a full-time job. The rest of my staff works a full-time job. Everything we do is out of our own pockets and it's all 100% volunteer. But we also have graphic artists on staff as well. So whenever they do art for us, I always like to give credit. And then if they will accept it, I will tip them or give them money for it. So I do a lot of things and it takes a while. For instance, like sometimes at work, so I'll be working at work, but I also have Telegram open up on my browser so I can monitor chat so it doesn't look like I have my phone open all the time because we're not supposed to have our phones open. But I'm chatting like with staff and with our regular like friends and chat group, along with scheduling and coming up with topics and ideas, and then talking to future guests, and then also answering emails, all while I'm also working as well. So I'm like, burning the candle at both ends? Is that what that? Yeah. It's like that all week long. And then like when I get off work, I'm just like, I'm tired.
Yeah,
I'm more tired than I should be, but it's worth it. So it's all good.
Well, definitely all the kudos to you. I mean, it's a lot, it is a lot.
It's a lot.
And it's exhausting. It's super rewarding, though.
It is. It's getting easier now that we know what we're doing, but it wasn't as easy a couple of years ago when we were, I guess, going from a live show into podcast format are two different formats, and they're very different and very difficult. And now I'm wearing another hat where we're getting ready to launch, or we're in the experimental stage of a VR show, but I don't really know what I'm doing in that space, but I've got a team that I'm working on. So I'm like also burning myself out on that too. So it's a lot, but I love doing it. So I wouldn't have it any other way.
No, that's the important thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to find that balance, but as long as your passion is there and everything, and I don't know, and knowing too that it's like, you're giving back something positive to folks or creating something people are going to enjoy. Like, I feel like that's one of the biggest things.
Hell yeah. You want me to take care of the next question?
Yeah.
All right. So back to the chunk of it all. Soul Search, look, from what we could see on the website, blends a lot of adventure and sci-fi, fantasy, lots of emotional storytelling. what was the very first idea that sparked the whole universe of this story and character? Like, was it a character, a scene, specific theme, or something completely different? Did you see it in like a dream? How did that come to be?
A fever dream? No.
A fever dream. You got sick with COVID once, and you're like, oh man, cats in space with fire powers, yeah, and a
Let's
moose.
do it.
And let's go.
Hello again, this is Crow with your trigger warning. Please skip ahead 5 minutes for sensitive viewers. I'm going to give another, let's say, 5 seconds for people who are easily triggered to continue moving on before we continue. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the episode.
So I've actually had this story for a really long time. I've been developing these characters since I was a little girl. This was kind of like my playtime when I was a kid with like my brother, and it just kind of it developed over the years. There's a lot of stuff that like I grew up in the Midwest with gay parents in a time where that was really unacceptable. So this was kind of a love story to myself. A lot of the characters all have specific, I would say, like parts of my journey, but also because we like have our team now and like Dizzy's a part of it and everything, these characters also have parts of them in it that are very, very important. And some of those things are kind of like hard to talk about in some regards. We do discuss a lot of like mental health. I would say for me, I started realizing not too long ago that I was asexual, and I grew up in a kind of environment where, you know, before I launched Soul Search, actually, I had like the worst time of my life. I was at the lowest point of my life. And I just decided like, nah, you know what? I don't see asexual women in media. I don't see, like, I'm Mexican. I don't see a lot of that represented in media. You know, there's a lot of stories I really love, but there's never really been a character that I look at and I say like, that's me. That's my story. And so Soul really started off with kind of that idea, but has been in development for a very, very long time. And I think a lot of Soul Search has unpacked a lot of like trauma and things that I've gone through personally, as well as other people kind of like adding to it as it has developed. And so that's kind of the main idea of it. I will say, like, I'm hugely, is that a word? I'm very inspired by Tolkien. My first kind of like love as a writer was The Hobbit. I grew up like reading that book and The Lord of the Rings. Like, they're very special things to me. And so I kind of liked the idea of that journey, of a character going on a journey, but the journey, even though outward, there's a lot of fun, cool stuff going on. Inward too, there's a lot of self-reflection and development. And so that's kind of the idea of where it started. But the more I grew up, and I feel like as you grow up and you start to realize that your family may not be what you think it is, and you experience a lot of prejudice or, you know, other things, trauma, essentially, you start to realize that you develop as a person and you start implementing that more in your story. And that's kind of how Soul Search has grown. And it tackles a lot of mental health. It tackles a lot of, and like sexual assault and, you know, things that real people have been through that isn't represented in media. And when it is, it's overtly sexualized or it's downplayed, or some networks are too afraid to talk about it. But it's important for the development of that character and of that story. And for us as an audience, if we've been through that, to see characters that represent like who we truly are. And so that is a lot of, honestly, it's not how it started. It actually started as just like a fun little thing I would play with my brother. But as I grew up, I realized it became something that everybody kind of relates to in some way. And even the team really talks about the importance of being on the project, hearing the story and relating to it in some way and adding their own spin to it. Dizzy?
I would echo pretty much all of that. You know, I mean, so much of my personal work involves a lot of exploration into identity and sense of belonging. And for me personally, you know, I was born in Hawaii, and then just a few years thereafter, like we moved to Missouri. So that's really where I grew up. And I identify now as, you know, bisexual and non-binary. But it was hard. It was hard growing up in a really conservative place. and feeling very othered, and I'm also have complex PTSD from, various other things that have happened later in my life, and, coming to terms with all of those things, trying to, cathartically explore all that stuff through art. And I think a lot of that stuff too is what really led me to the furry community, as being a safe space and being able to explore, what does identity mean? Who am I? Who do I want to be? And that's definitely a big thing too for Soul Search. I mean, being able to have a venue to explore those things and put those things in there, because I'm certainly not alone in any of those experiences, and I think that's a big thing too. It's when you can see something or interact with something where, it validates you, it validates your experiences in that way. It's important and it's powerful.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think we only have 2 straight characters in our story too, which is so funny.
Bless.
It's legitimately like
the 2 token straight characters.
Yes. We got our token straight characters, exactly. It's legitimately like there's ADHD and autism. Like Soul, our main character, is ADHD. She is asexual. We have, Talk is bisexual, possibly like kind of in that gender fluid space. We have a transsexual character, and casting for that was even important. We made sure that like those characters, the people that gave the voices were trans or non-binary, as well as like we have characters that have mental disorders that come from, unfortunately, things like trauma. We have characters that represent BPD. We have characters that represent DID. We have characters that represent depression and anxiety and things like that. And the more that we kind of made Soul Search and delved into it, the more we realized like most people do relate to this stuff, and we just choose not to talk about it. And so we're kind of in a place where we want those representations to come forward and lead the story.
I think the word, I gotta remember what it is. Stigma. That's the word.
Yeah.
There's like a negative stigma to like having all of those. Because I know that when I was growing up, definitely like had almost my entire life up until like maybe like 5 years ago, definitely had like undiagnosed ADHD, maybe a touch of autism. And like my mom would always say like, oh, well, you're not, autistic. You're not, you don't have ADHD, nothing's wrong with you. As if having ADHD and autism was a bad thing. It's not. It's just a flavor of human. And so I don't know.
And there's just, it's, that stigma like still exists in some regards. There's new stigmas like trans community, but like even growing up in the Midwest is hard enough if you're different, if you're neurodivergent. But even my grandparents refused to acknowledge that my mom was gay. Like that was just a taboo thing where you didn't talk about it.
That's harsh.
And I grew up in that environment. And when you grow up in an environment like that, it's incredibly, incredibly toxic. And as an adult, that's kind of why I wanted to make characters that reflected some of those values. Cause it's like, it's almost like you have a version of your past that it's just not real. Like, and you start to question and wonder, like, these people in my life that were really important to me, but they did this horrible thing. And so, we definitely want to talk about that stuff and be open to it. And that also goes back to this whole conversation about like, can we post these things on YouTube? Can we, post these things on like wherever, which is why we're really trying to figure that out as well.
I think you can. I mean, Digital Circus did a really good job of striking everyone's heartstrings.
For sure. Yeah.
For sure. Like people were like, you should watch it. And I'm like, okay. So I had to binge watch it before we went and saw the last episode in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my God, I think I cried on one of the episodes because I was just like, holy crap, this resonates so deeply right now.
Yeah.
So
I can agree.
Absolutely agree.
Crazy. So if the thing is you can get animators that can create a story with the same thing, but not everyone can create a story that really resonates with the people. So you can duplicate all you want to, but there's for instance, I always refer to Studio Ghibli, for instance.
Oh yeah.
The music, the landscaping, the character creation, and the stories behind them all make you feel like you're part of the story. It makes you feel feel things that you don't normally get to feel. And so it's really a unique experience when an animation can pull that from you. And I think that's just so cool. Yours did that. I haven't seen like a full episode, but I've seen little bits here and there. And even then, I got what I call the shivers or the chills because I felt like part of it resonated with me in a way.
That's really sweet. I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, we've talked about Digital Circus. That was that was an amazing storytelling, and that's really what it is. Like it's writing. You know, we had a professor that used to say you can't polish a turd, which is so true because it's like you can make the most beautiful graphics and animation, but if the story isn't there, like
crap.
Who cares?
Yeah, it just doesn't work. It has to work on both ends. It can't just be one carrying the weight and then there's just a little bit underneath. That's why some movies, like, while you say like the graphics are amazing, like for instance, I'm going to reference Tron Ares. The graphics were amazing. The storyline sucked ass. Like it was awful. And it had so much potential and I was really excited. I never saw the theaters because it got the worst ratings ever. And then I watched it on Disney Plus and I'm like, I wonder if I can get like an hour of my life back. I don't know if I can.
It's so hard when you see where it's like everything's there. It's like the budget is there. Maybe the talent is there. Like all these things come together and it's so hard to like wrangle all of that. But then, like you said, like the story just wasn't there.
It
negates everything else.
That's what Disney's going through right now. That's the huge issue with them. There's just not good stories.
They used to have really good stories, and I don't understand why they're having such a hard time creating new stories that are good. So that's like one of my biggest gripes with Disney right now.
No, I totally feel it.
Yep.
You know, it's that like we want to play it safe. You know, we don't want to take risks, but it's like that's how great things are made.
And speaking of stories and resonating with specific characters, I want to know pretty much what character secretly you most resonate with.
Yeah, that's actually a great question because I've always joked with Dizzy that like I have multiple personalities and all the characters are my personalities. I think there's a little bit of all of me and family members and people in my life and etc. like into the characters. I would say if you asked me this 2 years ago, I would have said that I resonate the most with Zip because a lot of the conflict that Zip, Soul's sister, has was very much my personal like trauma. But over the past couple of years, I would say Soul. Soul is like a great representation of who I am as a person rather than just my trauma. Like she's kind of my identity. So yeah, that's a really good question. I also have a character named Niles which is what I go by. So I feel like there's a lot of different like identities that I take, but Soul's definitely the outlier for me. What would you say, Dizzy?
I'm gonna have to go with Chalk. You know, he is the bi plus baddie that
he's a bicon.
He's a bicon, 100% that I want to be and I strive to be. You know, if I didn't have my baggage of experiences and things, you know, I feel like Chalk is who I would see myself being. You know, he's so much more outgoing and he's just goofy and free and uninhibited, and I love that boy so much. So definitely Chalk.
It's your boy.
100%.
That's pretty
Sweet.
cool.
Speaking of some characters, also not side tangent, but I also like Chalk. Just from what I've read, like on the website and stuff like that. I don't know. He just seems like a really cool boy. I like him a lot. But speaking of characters, Dr. Talos in his bio. I personally noticed something when we were talking about Easter eggs and whatnot earlier. I noticed something in his bio. He says the term human is mentioned. Are there humans in this world, or is it just like more of a humanity within anthropomorphized characters sort of range?
That's actually really funny. That's something Dizzy and I debated. Actually, Dizzy mentioned like, you sure you want to put human in there? Because it is definitely like a humanity within anthropomorphized characters. There's no humans in the world of Soul Search. However, we are friends with a lot of indie creators. We collaborate a lot and they have human characters and we have put Easter eggs of their stuff in there. So in one of the lab scenes, you will see a poster of a human, like an African-American man. It's kind of like an army enlist kind of poster. It's from another indie creator. We actually put a lot of each other's like references in there, kind of similar to how like Rick and Morty and Gravity Falls like hint at
Yeah.
each other a lot.
That's so cool,
That's
though.
cool.
Yeah, so you will see stuff in there that's like human. But there are no actual humans in there. We've actually joked about humans being like the furries of their world. Like they make their own Sona, their own like human Sona.
OC, yeah.
That's really cool.
But yeah, yeah.
Ah, very neat.
We're kind of winding down at this point. For our aspiring creators listening to this episode, what's one lesson from your soul search journey that could help them start their own passion project?
I mean, I don't want to like steal from Nike, but like just do it. The thing is like
Just Shia LaBeouf, do it, just
Do it!
do
Don't
it.
let the dreams be dreams.
The thing is, but it's as like cliche as it is, like cliches exist for a reason. And like, it's true though. Like I've always wanted to tell the story and I didn't know like which medium. Originally it was a novel, then it was a graphic novel. Now I'm doing animation, but I've always like, especially living with trauma too. Like I've always told myself like, but I'm not like, I can't do it. Not me. Like, I'm not the next Tolkien. I'm not, the next George Lucas. And it's like, that's fine. You don't have to be those people. But if you're itching to tell a story and it resonates with people and it resonates with you, then get it out there. And I think people expect it to be perfect and it's just not. It's like, it took me so long to post scratchy expression storyboards because I was like, well, this isn't the final animation and I don't want to post it if it's not perfect. But it's like, people love that shit. People love seeing, writing, like scratch writing, people like seeing character development, character designs, things like that. And especially now on TikTok or social media in general, where we share so much of our lives, people love process. And so even just getting it out there and seeing like how people react to it, if it makes you happy at the end of the day, like just do it, Dizzy?
Yeah, I'm gonna double down on that. Perfection. I always love to say practice makes progress, not perfection. And it's so easy to fall into that trap of either I'm not going to show anything and maybe you'll never put the thing out there because it doesn't meet your high bar or, whatever of perfection, or you never even start and you just got to jump into it, and just, life is short too, but it's like Niles and I started rewatching Dragon Ball recently, and it's just crazy how much they did with not a whole lot, like there's really not a ton of animation, at least compared to today, where it's like things are so overproduced.
Oh,
yeah. And it's an unattainable bar for an individual to like, I'm going to try to match that because it just won't happen. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. You shouldn't make, whatever you care about.
And there's so much you can do with so little. Like people don't realize it, but even in animation, there's so many corners that you can cut that can look really nice and professional without it being, nice and professional.
Like, I mean, Asian animation really plays on dramatics really well. Everything they do is so over the top, but it works because that's the style that they're going for.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like the Super Saiyan, like that is ridiculous, but it works.
Yeah.
People watched it.
Yeah. I think something real quick that I'm going to mention is that when creating literally anything, I read this maybe about a year ago or so. Somebody had said to me in a message somewhere, they said, make it exist first. You can make it perfect later.
100%.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that works for anything, whether you're drawing or painting or, writing a book or, creating a badass show. I think that applies to it.
No, absolutely. I mean, especially if you are
make it exist, make it perfect later.
Yeah, I mean, you can always return to it, and especially if you're just starting out, you can't expect that it's like you're going to match somebody that's been doing this for like 10+ years or whatever. But that's the difference, and that's what I always tell people is it's like anybody can be an animator, anybody can be an artist. It's just time, like anything else. It's just putting, just practice, putting time and energy into it.
Yeah, and also failure. I think people are afraid of failure, but failure is like necessary though, because like even with
the only way to succeed is to fail.
Yeah, like that's exactly it. Even with our Kickstarter, we just don't see it as a failure. It's more of like, oh, we just need to tap into our marketing more. We need to it's
a learning experience.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's the thing. It's like so many people are afraid to fail, but it's like you have to. I mean, all of them failed really at one point. I know, like, you know, people I'm sure didn't get it right on the pitch. I'm sure George Lucas didn't just present Star Wars and they were like, sounds great, let's make, you know, 5 movies.
No, I think I remember reading something that he failed a lot. Yeah. And like you mentioned with Tolkien, like he didn't start actually putting his books out until like what, he was like 40, 50? Something like that?
Tolkien actually was never happy with The Lord of the Rings to the day that he died, which is like such a sad thing to think about.
That's so upsetting because it was so good.
Yeah, I've heard he has more books and stories, but that were never published.
Yeah, and his son is actually now publishing like his old stuff because he never felt like they were good enough. So
that's crazy.
It would be like, oh my gosh, trying to publish all the Star Wars books out there. You go to like the library and you're like, where's your Star Wars section? And there's just like a full aisle of just random authors who have all created Star Wars like fan fiction. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine trying to create movies off of that?
Oh my
God.
God.
They probably do, actually.
I mean, I know there's some hints of that stuff, and I don't know if it's canonized or not, but I know there's hints of stuff in that, like the new Star Wars series of characters that only show up like in the books. But I thought you were just going to mention that there's like a lot of books in general, because I would say, what is it, James Patterson or something? Every time you go down like the horror aisle and you just see like an entire bookshelf that's just James Patterson, I'm like, you go, man.
There's at least like James 6 Patterson. to 10 feet of James Patterson.
You keep making
if you've got the talent, I say go for it. For real, though.
All right. Oh, wow, my brain died. I'm so sorry, guys. All right. Anyway, oh my gosh. First off, I guess, was there anything else you guys wanted to add before you wrapped anything up?
I guess we can talk about, well, one, thank you so much for having us. We're really
absolutely
to have a conversation, talk to people who are like-minded. It's really nice.
For sure.
I guess we can talk about like where you can find us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just go ahead and let the audience know where they can find you.
Yeah. So we do have a Discord, which is like where, you know, some people like hang out. We do like ask the audience sometimes for like opinions on things, try to get them involved. But my main is TikTok. It's at Nile Dial. But also we have our Soul Search YouTube channel, which is just at Soul Search Story. We also have a website, which is just soulsearchstory.com. Any of those have my link tree in it, which if you want access to the Discord, you can get access there. And we also have a Blue Sky as well. All of it's under at Soul Search Story. So we're pretty easy to find in that regard. And then soon, I don't know when, but we're going to have a .furry account. So that's like kind of a TBD thing. And hopefully our Kickstarter is going to launch sometime at the end of the year. If you want to support, literally anything helps, even if you donate $1 or just spread the word. But yeah, that's pretty much it, right?
Just sharing does a lot. I know, last year we went to Further Confusion and we had a panel there, talking about like, how do you start an indie animation? So we're definitely wanting to go to more cons and make ourselves more available for things like that. It's just kind of demystify, a lot of these different things and career paths for folks and just stuff that you can get into. But I mean, also extend the invitation. I mean, if folks want to reach out, that have questions about stuff like that, we want to make ourselves available as much as we can.
Yeah. And also, if you do see us at a panel, we usually give away free stickers and stuff. So like, if you like free stickers.
I love stickers.
Yeah.
I love stickers. I just picked up like 20 stickers at like a little adult book fair today. And I'm so excited to put them on my laptop. So
yes. So
I have tons of stickers all over my computer tower and stuff, and so I took a picture of it once, and someone's like, "I know all those stickers," and I'm like, "Really? Cool." I collect them. I put them in my wallet and all that stuff, and I just put them on wherever.
Heck yeah, they're fantastic.
Everybody loves stickers.
Stickers, pens, all that stuff was fun.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, thanks again. We really appreciate you, having us on and chatting with us and everything. It's been a lot of fun.
I mean, I've had the pleasure of interviewing lots of people within your industry. I've interviewed Lackadaisy. That was such a fun interview to do. There's a furry animator out there named Fatty Dragonite. He's done a couple of film festivals for his animations. That was a really cool interview. So I always enjoy getting people like you onto our show and then just talking about your passion, the story behind it, all the things that make it work. I think that's a lot of fun for me. So I get to enjoy listening to you guys talk and then occasionally asking questions. So it is a pleasure to have you on our show.
Oh, thanks so much.
Thank
It
you
means
so
a
much.
lot.
Yeah. And then, as usual, folks, you can find us, pretty much on any podcast platform at this point. You can reach us at talktothemuzzle@gmail.com if you want to ask us a question or if you want us to relay a question to our guests. We have a Telegram group. It's fun. It's great. It's like 200 people at this point, but really not that many people talking it. So it's still pretty chill and not overwhelming. So we've got lots of fun things going. When you guys do launch your Kickstarter, and I'll keep track of it in Discord, I'll make sure to update the description in the episode so that information is current.
Accurate.
Yeah,
Awesome.
accurate. Thank you. That's the word.
Appreciate it.
Words, I do not know.
English is
A
hard.
lot. Words are hard. Anyways, we want to thank our listeners for listening in, and we will see you guys all on our next episode, which I'm sure will be about something. Anyways,
I'm sure we'll yap about something.
yeah. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.